Peace. Hi everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Cacao with Karla. How you doing? Let's take just a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth while we're getting grounded and getting ready to receive this amazing download, share, exchange, all of the things that are happening for the first episode of Cacao with Karla. And again, I apologize if I'm not looking directly in the camera and sort of at your eyes, because from this angle it's really hard for me to see where the little camera is. So I'm gonna take some cleansing breaths, and you can take some cleansing breaths with me. So a cleansing breath is in through the nose, holding at the top of the breath for a couple of seconds, and then breathing out through the mouth. And as you start to calm down, you can imagine that the excess stress and tension in your body is melting out through the bottoms of your feet. So breathing in through the nose, holding at the top of the breath, exhaling through the mouth. I'm doing that a couple more times. Rolling the shoulders back, relaxing. And flutter your eyes open as you feel called or ready. Or if you're just watching me breathe and that's making you feel relaxed, that's great too. Whatever feels good and comfortable for you. So I've got my cacao here. Just made it all nice and hot and steamy like. I don't know if you can really see the steam coming off of it from the video. But with this being the first episode of this series, I just want to go straight into talking about the first step with creating safety for shadow integration. Because when many people ask me about shadow integration, what it is, what it's used for, if it's scary or not, if it involves, XYZ modalities. The first thing I always want to bring to people's attention is to be careful about doing anything from a crisis mode. So for me, no matter what I'm doing, I always want to create safety with what I am doing for myself or anything that I'm offering for other people. So as a part of that, I'm also going to smudge you right quick, digitally, social distance, all of those things. So as you tune into this live, as you've done your breaths, or if you're just joining us, just taking a few deep breaths and getting nice and comfortable in your body, relaxing your lower back, making sure your booty's all nice and cushy and comfortable. I'm just gonna smudge you, smudge your neighbors, and myself. All right, leave that burning over there. So yeah, creating safety for doing shadow integration. The first thing that I want to call attention to is that my particular approach to shadow work and shadow integration always includes the body. When I was first starting off with this 5 years ago, I was in a place where I had recently lost my job. Actually, it was around this time of year 5 years ago. Had lost my job. I left corporate America to do the thing where I would follow my bliss and, become an artist and leave corporate America behind forever and just, live my life the way that I wanted to. And I found myself in the midst of this really deep, dark night of the soul. I ended up homeless for 2 months, living out of my car and couch surfing. And in the middle of that, I just remember having this moment where someone gifted me a vegan cupcake. And I was like, man, for a split second, I forgot about everything that happened. I was like, I love my life. I love my life. Despite all this other stuff that's happening, it could be worse. But I've never liked that saying, oh, it could be worse. There's children starving in Africa and blah, 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 and someone else has it worse than you, because that kind of perspective and that that frame specifically for me doesn't seem very helpful. It seems a little bit like victim blaming, like, oh, how dare you feel shitty about what's happening to you right now because someone else has it worse. And it's this like way that I feel like we shame each other when it comes to holding space for our pain and other people's pain. It's like we have such a low tolerance for people expressing themselves that there's a way that I've seen and that I've noticed myself doing in the past, where like I try to minimize that person's pain, and instead I try to focus on what I'm grateful for, and not just like the gratitude kind of practices, but just be like, fuck, like my life is good where it is right now because there's at least something that I have control over my life, whether it is, you know, that 5 minutes I have between my drive from here to work, where I'm sitting in my car and I've gotten to work early and I'm just like taking some time to myself and I'm breathing, and my car is my confessional box, and I get to just yell or be angry or cry or take a 5-minute nap before work. Sometimes I would do that when I had an office job. It's recognizing what you have control over and being grateful for that, and then really maximizing and focusing on expanding your ability to control that thing that you have control over. So for me, at that moment where I was in my car ogling over this beautiful vegan cupcake that someone had gifted me, I was just like, I love my life. And no matter what happens from here on out, like I'm just going to follow this thread. I'm going to focus on the things that I can control. And even though it felt like all of these other like law of attraction things had failed me, and my affirmations had failed me, and I listened to all the Abraham Hicks up until that point, and I was still experiencing this really dark night of the soul, I was like, okay, like there's something that is orienting me towards what I need to be doing ultimately, and I need all of myself. I need my own permission to do this. So part one of creating safety for your integration journey that you're on right now is to get your full consent that you are going to do this. Get your own full consent that you will allow yourself to check in with your body, ask your body, slow down, quiet your brain, get your brain on board too. So what I mean, like get your brain on board, what I mean is the judgy voices, the kind of scared little kid voices inside of you, being like, hey, like we're gonna do this thing that might not feel so great sometimes, but I want to hear what you have to say. I honor that you're here and that you're telling me all these scary things to help me not fall off a cliff and die, or be rejected from the collective and die, and blah, 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 whatever the story is. And then the part where you die, because that's basically what every anxiety seems to try to be protecting you from, or leading to in your head. If you have, had anxiety like I did, like I had really fucking debilitating anxiety for a long time. So that is the reason that I drink cacao. This is not something that I started doing because I saw it on Instagram. It looked cool. I was like, oh my God, cacao ceremony. It's like, no. When I started drinking cacao, guys, I was just like, hey, like pot is not working for me. Yoga is okay, but like I'm not really feeling anything from that. I suck at meditation, but drinking a cup of unpasteurized chocolate is something that I can do. Me and my lazy, just very sugar tooth personality can really get behind this. So so I started drinking cacao purely out of as a way to create safety for myself. So it's like, like trying to stay focused on that. So I'm just reading the comments. I'm wrapping presents and listening to your beautiful soul. Oh my gosh, thank you, Marina. So I'm trying to figure out like the ways to like make this really big, very personal, kind of mysterious and also dark and scary thing really approachable. Because for me, shadow integration, it can be scary because we are going into the parts of ourselves and the memories and facing and holding loving space for the aspects of ourselves that we fear, that we run away from, that we try to distance ourselves from. Like the term shadow in itself, like the idea of shadow work in this whole movement was started by the work of, I won't say started, it was popularized by the work of Carl Jung, who uses the term shadow as kind of like a catch-all phrase for those repressed parts of ourselves. And I am not specifically a Jungian professor, Jungian psychology professional, certified in that or anything like that, because I've read some of his work, and it can be a bit dry and academic at times. Some of it seems a little bit outdated, but that's okay. It was like the early 1900s, and that's kind of to be expected from a lot of that. But what I share in my ceremonies, what I share with clients, what I share in general are things that I have done in my own personal life, and I've shared with other people that has worked for me. So a actionable step that you can take right now is to identify what your physical safe space is. When I had 5 roommates and I worked 40 to 50 hours a week back in the day, my car was my safe space. It was the only place where I could have both visual, if I parked in like a, sort of private place, both visual and audio privacy. I so respect like soundproofed like privacy. And for me, like even in the deepest, like, least resourced amounts of time, like times in my life where like, and I was broke or, and jobless and homeless all at the same time, I still had a car. At most, like, that's just been that one safe space for me. It's like, it's movable. I can change my position on the planet at any given point, and I can have a full like phone conversation without my roommates hearing me complain about them. Yay. So, for you, it might be the bathroom. It might be a closet. I have taken calls with people where they're literally in their closet because that's the only private space that they have. The idea of prayer closets is something that I grew up with in the African American culture. So just like identifying where that is for you. Seriously, it's a thing. So yes, Justice Rose, facing some really scary shit. Yeah. And Marina, my car is my safe place and always has been. Yes. So really giving attention to it and like zhuzhing it up, like getting yourself some incense, drinking a cup of cacao, having a cup of tea, like being able to really create and like anchor the energy of that space is like, this is my safe space. This is where my physical representation of my inner self that I am cultivating magic within, because the ultimate goal for shadow integration for me is to rescue all of my personal energy, my personal power that's stuck living out these old paradigms, living out all these old scripts, stuck in memories, either things that I remember or repressed memories, which have come up and do regularly come up with shadow work. Like, you will likely have things that you remember that you tried to, forget a long time ago, because at that time you weren't prepared to process it. And that's okay, especially things that happened when we were children, like, trying to figure out how to be an adult, and there's all these things happening, and sometimes it requires us to come back at a later date, and that's okay. I just want to hold give some space and some silence to that. Because I can feel like that right now, like that right there, even just the acknowledgement of that can be really, really heavy and very sensitive and tender. Whew. So yeah. And it's gonna be okay. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, I just invite you to do another one of those cleansing breaths. So a cleansing breath, again, is in through the nose, holding the breath for a couple of seconds, and then out through the mouth. Your feet on the floor, if you're in a position that your feet are on the floor. And then just imagining all of the fear, all of the tension, the tightness in your chest, the tightness in your throat, whatever it is that you're feeling, just letting it come down and out, melting out through the bottoms of your feet. This is a really basic thing that I use for people in ceremony as a way to anchor their energy into their bodies and not to disassociate while they're going through the process of bringing up these sensitive shadows. Speaking of which, I am hosting a shadow integration ceremony towards the end of the month on the 19th. I forgot to copy and paste the link, so I will add that at the end of the video. But like using that breath, that cleansing breath, is just a basic, easy breathing exercise that you can do at any time that you're doing this, this work, or anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed. For me, like there's nothing new under the sun, but really just the ways that we use the tools that we have is new. The perspectives that we have is new. The people that are sharing messages that you resonate with, and speak directly to something that you felt but haven't had the words to, like, you know, that is what's new. So with that, I honor you for being here. Yeah. So with that, there's something, I feel like there's another nugget, just another beautiful piece that I want to share with you about creating safe space. Ooh, okay, so this one's gonna be a little bit edgier. So with shadow work and shadow integration, one of the basic tenets of it is, one of the basic tenets that I use and have seen in other practices as well is taking radical responsibility for whatever comes up. And when I say radical responsibility, I don't mean that as you're remembering, you know, or connecting with the part of you that you feel is too loud and doesn't deserve to take up space, that you should say, well, everyone else is wrong and fuck everyone else for silencing me. And, you know, like that kind of like victim stories of like other people are overpowering me and because other people are doing X, Y, Z, I can't show up in the way that I need to. That may have been true at one point, and likely it's not as true now. And even for things that have happened in my adult life or very recently, there's so many ways that focusing on what other people are doing is not helpful. I can only control my own actions. You know, we can only control our own reactions to things. So being able to work with that as the focus of what you're working on, and not like someone did XYZ to me, but like I felt, using those two sentence stems of I experienced, I felt, when it comes to journaling, when it comes to meditating. And so like the first thing that I would do is just to really slow down and feel your body, do some breathing exercises, do some movement practices in your safe space if you want to, and to just acknowledge how you felt about that situation. Being able to just like, you can almost like channel that part of yourself and like just let it speak. One of the things I like to use with shadow integration is this idea of subpersonalities, these different parts of me, like my inner happiness gremlin. Like some of my close friends have witnessed I don't know, sometimes I call it the sugar gremlin. Like if I have too much sugar or I'm just really excited for some reason, just have like a lot of electricity running through my system, I'm like, hey, I have a cupcake. It is my cupcake, and I have my cacao, and I have a cupcake, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Like that's just like one of my parts of myself. Like it's me, of course. It's all me. But it's kind of like an archetype or an energy that I can personify in my mind, and it can hold a certain energy, a certain set of beliefs, a certain body posture, wording, facial expressions. And this can be a way, like if you're having issues connecting with your inner child, for example, that you can start to play with those ideas a little bit. So I feel like I'm covering a lot of things here, and I want to make sure that it feels concise and usable and practical. So I'm just going to keep watching and looking at these comments. Yeah, gotta get away from the kids. Yeah, definitely. Just whatever little space, whatever space you can have. I'm not gonna say the word little because I don't want to curse you with that. Whatever space that you can create, whether it's 5 minutes at night, sitting in the bottom of your closet. All you need is sitting space, and close the door and just have that time to yourself. See, allow this time to forgive myself and heal. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, so if anybody has any specific questions, I know I kind of shared a lot, and I want to make sure that for whoever's watching that you are able to use me as a resource fully. Like, please use me. Use me as a resource and allow me to like answer your question live, or if you want to send it to me privately, I can also answer it on a future live, so that way the answer can be shared with multiple people. But yeah, when it comes to shadow integration, like, this is the basic tenet of that, which is creating safe space for yourself and not allowing your judgments about other people's actions distract you from looking at your own ways that you've shown up in the patterns that keep magically coming into your life with, you know, the type of people that you're inviting into your space, or the same amount of money that you seem to be making and never too much more. And when you do make more than that, you have like you break a leg, or, you know, the car engine explodes or some stuff like that. That's a sign that there's just this, just vast, unlimited power of the fractal of the universe that we are in these human bodies having this human experience. The unlimited magic that we have, that our thoughts and our beliefs literally create our reality. Being able to do the shadow work really brings all of that to the surface, allowing you to own what you're creating in your life without judgment, without blame, and then use that power for other things that you consciously want. So I'm just gonna drink some cacao right quick and just allow some time for people to ask questions while I'm here. What questions do you have? Or what's coming, or what else is coming up for you? I mean, definitely hearing from Justice and Marina. Oh yeah, Denise, yeah, the first step is always the scariest. Yeah, that's why, you know, for me, for the longest time, I was afraid to talk about shadow work, because I started talking about it a few years ago, and people were like, shadow work, oh, that sounds scary. I don't want to do that. I just want to do my affirmations, and I'll just stick with my affirmations and my YouTube videos, and I'll just do that. And I was that person too, so don't. I'm not saying that in a judgy way. At least I don't mean for it to come off in a judgy way. That was me as well. Well, I don't see any other questions coming out just yet. See, I love this. I've been going through a lot. Am glad tuned into the universe. Oh yeah, the universe has pushed you. I hear you. Yeah, that's what happened to me, honestly. I was trying to do my spiritual hippie stuff on the weekend, and then do, like, you know, plant medicine or these transformational workshops, or just dreaming about all the things I would do, and my life was perfect, and all of the conditions in my life were perfect, and then I could finally leave that job behind and be happy and live my life, and not decimate my body with these shitty jobs. And when I say shitty, I don't mean like just low wage. I mean just like stressful and harmful to the body kind of jobs. And then the universe is like, nope, I'm just gonna Sparta, just kick you out, and you're gonna have to learn how to do this. But I'm grateful for all that. Yeah, definitely looking back, grateful for all of that. And look, what can be really helpful for, okay, I feel like a little bit, not edgy, but just like cautious sharing this, because a common thing can be like, oh, I just want to like immediately transmute the shadow's bad, I have to run away from it, needs to be transmuted immediately because I just want to be 100% light. Trying to find the good and the bad is good, or like, you know, like, oh, like I'm really grateful that, you know, because this thing happened, I'm a lot more resilient in these ways. But to really just like get off on and luxuriate in just some of the mess that we've created for ourselves. Because when you think about the fact that we are a fractal of the universe, it would make sense that if we're all one and we all come from this beautiful love consciousness, that when we chose to incarnate in these bodies for whatever our ultimate purpose is, that we were curious about what separation feels like, and curious about what strife feels like, and what it feels like to have just enough money and like try to use our creativity to make everything work at the end of the month. It's like, oh, but it, you know, if I do this, then maybe I can pay that. But if I don't pay that, then this thing. Like I had to recognize in myself that there was a particular way that I loved having just enough money. Because one, it felt really, it felt bad. It felt unfair in a way for me to have more than what I needed, more than just enough. And this would often manifest in a way where like I would pay my bills on time, but also like I would only just have enough. So sometimes I had to be a little bit creative, or I had to deny myself that extra vegan ice cream that I wanted, or I had to deny myself this workshop that I wanted to attend. I started to realize that even though it hurt to tell myself no, and I had a lot of judgment and anger around telling myself no, that I liked it, because like telling myself no made me feel justified. It made me feel like I was properly disciplining myself. It made me feel just like this, I guess like sadomasochistically, like, oh, like if I hurt myself, I'm doing well. Like there's that whole like struggle and pain and martyrdom for the good of all. Like that is so old paradigm. Like literally we're leaving the Piscean age and moving into the age of Aquarius, and we don't have to suffer for healing anymore. And I don't mean that like, you know, not suffering for healing means that it won't be hard sometimes, it doesn't require work. What I mean by that is that you're not required to it's not useful to celebrate like suffering, or like extend it, or use suffering as a way to connect with people, which is why I feel like for a long time I was trying to figure out how to share my own story, my own dark night of the soul, without it being like a sob story, without it being like, oh, like I overcame something, because I overcame something, I'm worthy of adoration or attention or, you know, street cred, whatever. I get to celebrate what I came out with, or you get to celebrate what you come out with from, you know, as a result of these experiences. But also like we don't have to die on a cross. We get to share and communicate and expand and find all of these new connections, these new neural pathways to have more equitable access to our own interpersonal power, and not just like a really loud voice for our inner critic and a really quiet voice for our intuition. Because I am fucking impressed by the people that I've connected with in the last few years, because the people that seem to be attracted into my vortex, into my world, y'all are fucking powerful. Like we're around here like manifesting some really big shit, and sometimes it's like shitty shit, and sometimes it's really awesome shit. And it just seems to depend on where we are with acknowledging and accepting the things that we have already manifested into our lives. So like manifestation, emotional mastery, literal magic, a lot of these things for my personal way that I interact with and teach shadow integration, all of those intersect. So let me see what you had said. So what had happened was, I appreciate your insight about shadow integration. It really changed my perception for moving forward and looking to more info. Yes, I am in the process of rebuilding the website that I had. So I had Cacao with Karla, and I was doing my monthly cacao ceremonies, which I'm still doing monthly ceremonies. But I'm choosing not to call them cacao ceremonies because the cacao is definitely a really big ally, plant ally for me, and helps a lot of people relax on that body level so that all of these other bigger, more sensitive topics can have safety around it, because for me, that is what cacao did. That's why I'm calling this Cacao with Karla, these episodes, because it's like the basic, like baseline comfort and safety, and, you know, making myself a cup of cacao before I'm about to go into some really heavy journaling practices or meditations, or literally just sitting in the dark and talking to myself. It really helps to have a cup of chocolate first, because all of those other things become a lot safer, a lot approachable, again, without tuning out, without disassociating, because I feel like that was my coping mechanism for so long. And not to blame disassociation, it's not inherently a bad thing. It is a coping strategy for a reason, and to help bring us back into our bodies, getting our bodies consent, because anything that we do out here, if we don't get the body's consent, it does not stick around for very long. That's why I feel like a lot of like manifestation, law of attraction courses that, you know, they'll talk about like feeling what it feels like to have that thing in your body. And you need to get your body's approval to have the thing, because you can manifest it, and then, you know, either your body or your shadow, your subconscious, is gonna be like, oh no, I can't fucking have that. Like, if I have all this money, I'll be bad. If I have all this money, people are gonna ask me for it. My family's gonna come after me. Like, I'm gonna get carted away and taken to jail because of tax evasion, because I did my taxes wrong. Like, you know, all of those things come up either consciously or subconsciously, and then like we find a way to sabotage it and push it away until we're back to that nice, cozy, familiar level of our own personal hells, of our own personal creation. So that is why doing shadow work consciously and using it as a way to balance out the law of attraction, the affirmations, helps the good stuff stick around a lot longer. So I feel like with that is a really good ending place. And again, if you have any specific questions, I would love to answer them on the next episode, or I might just, you know, hop on at some point and just, you know, answer that one specific question so that all of us can benefit from the exchange of ideas and the perspectives. I do have a shadow integration ceremony coming up again on Saturday the 19th. I know there's a lot of talk about the Age of Aquarius, and for those who are not familiar, the Age of Aquarius, for all intents and purposes, we're referring to the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Some people consider the age is marked by like where the vernal or the spring equinox, where the sun rises and which zodiac sign it rises under. And for astrological purposes, we're measuring it by these two major planets meeting at a very key moment, at a very key degree of the new of Aquarius, because that's starting a cycle of a lot more air themes and a lot of other planets having major positions and angles and such in air signs. We've been like coming through a lot of the Piscean stuff, and more recently I feel like there's also been like a lot of Capricorn energy that we've been dealing with, particularly with some other things that were happening over the last like year and a half with our what do you call it, when the moon does the thing, not solstice. There we go. The eclipses. I'm like, what is the word? There's a word. The eclipses. So we just had like eclipse season on the Capricorn Cancer axis, and now we're gonna have those like for the next 18-ish month, the not the solstice, but I just said that word. Sorry, my brain is just like thinking about all of the feeling things, and like I feel like a lot of sensation in my throat, but my brain's like, what? Words? Yeah, anyway, there's a lot of astrological things happening. So the Age of Aquarius starting later this month. And with that said, what I hear fewer people talking about is that the spread of the planets and where they're even placed in the different signs, the different zodiacs and like where they line up, usually there's a pretty decent scatter of like, you know, like Jupiter's over here, and you've got some planets over here in this sign, and some planets over here. Over the next like 2-ish months, all of the signs are going to be squeezed into the same 5 signs of the zodiac. Let me repeat that. Instead of signs being spread over like, you know, 10 to 12% of the signs, they're going to only be in 5 signs out of 12. So there's just like a whole lot of just like kind of bottlenecky, squeezing energy that's gonna be like bringing up a whole bunch of stuff. So people were like, oh yeah, like I was looking at the conjunction even during the election. I was like, I almost don't even care what happens at, you know, with the election. I'm more so looking at what's happening on December 21st with, you know, this conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And it's like, okay, like even after that happens, like all of these planets are going to start drifting into this really, really tight area of the sky, like basically all on top of each other, it seems like. So just, it seems like the looking more ahead and looking, you know, forward, the first like 4 months of 2021 are pretty fucking intense. So anybody that has not been doing this, you know, not willing to approach this personal work, it's just gonna be like a kind of rise to the occasion or just suffer. Like like we thought that, like, you know, okay, like, you know, the things that happened earlier this year was like a really big wake-up call for a lot of people. I feel like January, February, like a lot of just that kind of like pressure is gonna be not necessarily like, you know, like a bad thing, but for those of us who are sensitive, those of us who are tapped in, those of us who are attracted to topics like this, we have a responsibility to really clean up our own backyard, so to speak, so that we can really help usher in and anchor in this new energy for the Aquarian age of equity, of humanitarianism, of the spread of ideas and information being not only valuable and freely available, but to have like discussions and practices around how everybody can start to bring in some of these, I don't want to say it, like, I kind of want to say hive mind. Hive mind has a really negative connotation. I'm trying to find like the best wording around it. It's like Aquarius rules the internet. So like just kind of thinking about it that way, like all of us like are little nodes of like the collective conscious, the collective unconscious, and the more that we in our own, you know, clearing and like bringing more light and bringing more of our own power online, like us as our individual nodes and our individual experiences, really creating the network of awesome. There we go. Yeah, the network of awesome. So I like that. That feels really good. So I am going to end it here. I'm going to also put in the link for my upcoming cacao ceremony, shadow integration ceremony. Again, I'm not calling them cacao ceremonies anymore because it's going to be shadow integration specific, and there's also a lot more care and focus and support both before and after the ceremony. So instead of just like showing up and doing a ceremony for, you know, 2.5 to 3 hours, I'm providing support on the front end, and then like a whole hour of private one-on-one support with EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping, to embody all the things that come up within that 2-week period after the ceremony, because we're gonna go really deep It's also going to feel good, and you're also going to get a whole pound of low caffeine, super high grade, super serotonin producing cacao to help you integrate this new frequency, especially as we're moving into Aquarius age, and especially as we're going to have those those planets all like kind of on top of each other in only 5 signs in one corner of the zodiac. The cacao is going to help with that a lot, and just the upgrades and like the energetic shifts are going to help a lot from this shadow integration ceremony. So with that, I wish you a wonderful, beautiful night. I hope that you get your 5 to 10 minutes alone, no matter where you have to go, the bathroom, the car, the closet, outside in the woods, I don't know, depending on where you live. You want to be really careful with that. There's wild pigs where I am, so I just like, that was like the first thing came to mind. Anyway, may you be blessed, may you be healthy, may you be hydrated. Right. Peace.